Welcome to the Bleeding Hearts Club, where we alchemize pain into something beautiful together. I'm your co-host, Shroot. I'm an astrologer, and this is my co-host.
Hi, y'all. I'm Stevie. I am a tarot reader, death doula, mental health professional, all of those things,
Hey. So today we are answering more of your questions, which we really, really love to get your questions. Thank you so much for sending them in. If you have any questions that you want to get answered on a future episode of the podcast, go ahead and email us at bleedingheartsclub.pod@gmail.com, or you can DM us on Instagram at bleedingheartsclub.pod. You can also get a mini reading from us on the pod where Stevie will pull a tarot card for you and I will read your astrology chart if you leave your birth information. So that's birth date, time, year, city, location. We need all that info. And then we'll give you a mini reading in addition to answering your question. So thanks so much for writing in, y'all. So for our first question, we have a write-in from one of my lovely clients who had a really interesting story and question that she wanted to share with us. So do you mind reading it, Stevie?
Of course not. Okay. I went on a date yesterday and we're talking about birthdays. And she asks for mine. And I tell her, I'm a May Gemini. And she's like, oh my God, what date? So I'm like, redacted. And her jaw dropped because her birthday is also redacted, but same day, different year, but she's still a double Gemini. And I was like, oh God, I cannot date myself. I think I got the ick. LOL, LOL, LOL. um, I was like, this is too similar. And generally, I think I'm so used to having strong crushes that when I didn't feel that immediately, but I felt like she was more into me than I was into her, I was like, yuck, terrible. I hate this. Do people like dating similar charts to them?
This question cracked me up because at the same time that I got it, like I have a really close friend who just like started dating someone new and we were talking about it and she's also a Gemini and she was also just telling me like her partner was born a week before her and they basically also have the same chart. And it's like even though they're both Geminis, it's like my friend like hate like or sorry, my friend loves having almost the same chart as her partner and they're super, super into it. But my client hates having the same chart as a potential partner, which I thought was hilarious because I literally basically heard about these two things in the same week and like I was just like that's so funny. Oh my gosh. Just a tale of two Geminis, you know? And so ultimately, like, I think to answer, my client's question, I think it depends on what sign your Venus is in because my client has an Aries Venus and my friend who loves it has a Cancer Venus. And so, Aries is a sign that is all about individuation and all about being yourself. And, um, you know, an Aries Venus is like, I'm the me in this relationship. There can't be two. Whereas the Cancer Venus is like, I see me reflected in you, and I think that's romantic and beautiful. And so I loved like seeing the kind of similarities and differences where, they're both Geminis and they both have completely, actually all four, technically all four of these people involved are Geminis. But yet there's such a difference in perspective. Which I thought was hilarious. So I love that we're talking about this during Libra season because, Libra season is a season that's dedicated to our goddess Venus and Venus rules Libra. So I wanted to share that. I thought that was hilarious. Do you have any thoughts on that, Stevie?
I love that so much. It like you getting that glimpse into these
Yeah.
folks like romantic situations at the same time or like very close in time together
Literally. It was like back to back.
feels like serendipity
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
I I think it's so cool like to look at your Venus signs. I'm the tarot person.
Hmm.
Really know too much about astrology. Anything I know about astrology is from Shroot, and it's Shroot answering my same questions every 3 months about like, what is this? What is this? What does it mean that I have this? Or what is this? What is this house? I know I can Google it, but it's not going to give me
Nah,
the same. It's not going to give me the same thing.
that's what
Shroot
I'm here for.
into into words and concepts that I can understand. Um, this honestly, it kind of makes me think of when I was in a college, like an undergrad, I very briefly dated someone um, who I'm a Libra, like a Libra sun, is also a Libra sun.
Yep.
Uh, and I remember on his like Tinder profile,
Hmm.
he ENFP, like the
Mm.
Biggs Myers,
Yep.
personality test. And at the time, I was an INFP, so I was like, okay, wow, like we're a little similar. Um, and I hated it. I I hated it because for me, you know, I'm a Libra. I at the time really wasn't super direct. Very
Mm.
like if you were aloof, I was gonna be
Mm.
more aloof. Even if you weren't aloof on purpose, I'm being aloof on purpose. And so we just it was like communicating with myself in that nothing was ever clear.
That's so funny. I'm sorry.
It was up in the air.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of like fizzled out. And then he got with his ex-girlfriend.
I'm sorry. That's hilarious.
No, it was great. And we actually once it fizzled out and he got with his like ex-girlfriend, we did have like a nice check-in.
Oh.
And I mean, I feel like that was so Libra.
I was about to say that's peak Libra. When there's no like stakes to the like the confrontation anymore. Now you have it. Like,
Yeah, yeah, like
yeah.
literally. And we had a really great check-in because it was like after I got out of a horrible relationship,
Mm.
Schroots. Um,
The relationship that predicated our non-friendship.
yes. Schroots' mortal enemy who like gave me nothing
Yeah.
all the time,
Yeah.
crumbs
Worse than
sometimes.
nothing. Yeah.
So even this like really aloof person
Mm.
really treated me with respect and
Yeah.
like I in our check-in, it was just like, it was nice spending time together. And
Mm.
him, I was like, thank you for setting the bar a
Yeah.
little higher than it was
Yeah.
because it was on the floor.
Yes. No, it was in hell.
Oh, it was non-existent.
Yeah.
It was, yeah, yeah, yeah.
That is so
So
interesting.
in terms of like dating myself, not very productive, not very fruitful, but of like,
Yeah.
just I guess it held a mirror to me
Mm.
and like what I wanted or what I didn't want, or like, what my potential of communication could be. So I think at the very least, you may not like it, but it is a very interesting way to have a mirror held up to you.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of love that it was like
Or
a turning point for you.
yeah.
Like you were just like, oh, I could change some things about the way that I relate to others. Like that's very like
Mhm.
cardinal. Libra's a cardinal sign. And
Yeah.
it's like the sign of like, it's not just like, oh, fall is like kind of started. Like we in September, fall is like, okay, it's like coming around the corner. We're in that seasonal change. Whereas Libra is all about like it's like the changes, it's like the change in seasons is very much like Libra's domain. And so I kind of love the like opportunity that you had that it gave you this ability to be like, you know what, yeah, I can tweak some stuff. Like
Hmm.
I don't have to stay the same. Um,
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that, pal. That's like very funny. Very beautiful, very funny.
Yeah, it was a fun time.
You're saying that, and it made me think I too have dated a Libra
Really?
man. It was one of my first relationships. I was very young. But it was also one of the only relationships that I think I can look back positively and be like, yeah, that was a great relationship. Like, was I think a bit out of character for having a relationship so young. And um I think it was just like, you know, it being young, meaning I didn't really have too much of an opportunity to get into some mess. But I don't think that we would have gotten to some mess, to be honest. I think that we were really well balanced. Like, pretty much the thing that I remember the most about that relationship is that, like, we just talked about each other's dreams all the time. And like we would just like dream together and we would just hang out and I would be staying late after school for a club meeting that I would go to, and a lot of times I would skip the club meeting and just hang out with him. And we would just take a walk. We would go to Denny's together and get fries and like um, just like talk and dream. And it was just like one of the sweetest, most pure kind of relational experiences of my life. And um, it too fizzled out. You know, there's only so much you can like just talk like in a
Yeah.
relationship. And I was super young, so I didn't really want to um like it wasn't that serious, you know, we were super young. I wasn't really into I'm kind of still not, I don't know. I'm very like I don't have any cancer placements, I'll say that. So I definitely like to, even though I have a Scorpio Venus, I'm okay with, you know, there being a very intense connection without there being an intense commitment. And so um, I think it was cool the way it was, and yeah, I had a really positive experience. I think, and you know, to be fair, it was a really short relationship, so who knows? Maybe I would have had the Libra on Libra issues, but his birthday was only a couple days before mine. I'm pretty sure, maybe like a week before mine. Um, so, but he was older than me, so it was like years were different, but I loved it. I felt it was very like yes and like we
Mhm.
we had a very yes and relationship, and I don't think that I've ever had a relationship that I had that much just like light, innocent fun. Like I think all of my other relationships after that had a higher level of commitment and therefore more complicated stakes. So that was
Wow.
interesting to think about.
Yeah.
Real blast from the past.
Libras. Libra men.
Libra men. Which we know. I don't know if you ever heard people talk about Libra men, but as an astrologer, you know, I hear my fair share. I have to do my fair share of mopping up a mess a Libra man has made because he couldn't make a decision and stick to it. And he hurt quite a few people along the way. So uh sorry to sorry to those victimized by a Libra man. I can empathize. But yeah, I dated a Libra man only once. I'm pretty sure it was only once. I could be forgetting, but I'm pretty sure. So yeah, that's very interesting.
Mhm.
I love thinking
Mhm.
about that.
Yeah, seriously. Wow. Wait, can I tell you another part of my lore that
Yeah.
came up?
Oh my God, please.
No way. Sorry, this is
Just like
unlike.
opened a new door.
I know. Okay, was it like the summer after freshman year?
Mhm.
I also kind of had a little fling with a Libra man.
Mm.
Um, okay, so like that first Libra man, that was like my senior year of college.
Okay.
And this Libra man, summer after freshman year, um, I will spare details because he's like not, I don't know who's listening to this from like my hometown, so
Hmm. That's
spare the
real.
details. But anyway, it was like over the course of a few months, over the course of a summer,
Uh-huh.
Libra summer fling situation. Um, and then like it was very flirty and fun to start. And then once it like crossed a threshold of
Oof.
like, oh wait, no, like now we have to like talk about things,
Yeah.
disappeared. It disappeared.
Oh boy.
I I don't know. I don't know what it was at this time, but I
Mm.
I pulled up to his house.
That's the Scorpio in you. That's the Leo in you.
Yes. And I was nervous as hell, but I
Mm.
I was like, okay, that's not fair that
Hmm.
you like we had like this whole summer and I thought that we were actually friends like at the base of this.
Hmm.
I'm adult. I go to school, I pay my own bills, and I'm
Hmm.
not going to be hurt by something you say like I think we should just be friends.
Mm.
I feel like we owed that to each other
Yeah.
and that's whack as hell.
Yeah.
it was,
That's so funny. That's
it
fucked up.
was such a turning point for me. Um, but I was really proud of myself for doing that.
Mm-hmm.
I had never spoken up to somebody like that
Mm.
before. And I, as scared as I was and as vulnerable as it was, I really thank him for the opportunity to, I don't know, speak the fuck up,
Mm-hmm.
stand on business, 10 toes down,
Yeah.
and really call him out on
Mm.
behavior. And he, you know, we haven't talked since, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's real.
Um, so yeah, shout out to Libra men for holding up mirrors to me in ways that I become pretty audacious.
Yeah. Yeah, that's where I definitely think the activation of the Leo Mars and the Scorpio Venus, you're like, listen, if somebody's got to be the confrontation, I guess it'll be me. Like,
So,
yeah, I love that. Yeah, I find that really interesting. Like, I'm definitely a Libra who struggles with confrontation. And so, um, but yeah, it's like if the conditions are right, yeah, I will speak up. And I'm working on expanding the window of tolerance of what conditions are right. But
okay.
have not, I definitely think it's easier to fight with uh people who have charts that are not so similar to us. That's actually an interesting point. Because I didn't even think about that. But yeah, like our like the aspects that are more confrontational would be in opposition or a square. So that would be like, for example, for Libra, like a more confrontational aspect would be in Aries, because that's an opposite. Or it would be Cancer and Capricorn. And if I'm gonna do one thing, it's fight with a Capricorn. Like, I've definitely dated the most number of Capricorns. And I definitely have my fair share of fights with them. And so um it was definitely easier for me to have a little bit more of a well-rounded relationship with people whose charts are different to me. But I can see in the case of my friend who's loving it, like, um, she's loving the synergy, and I think that's where it's like in contrast to being able to like have things that you disagree on big enough to have like a conflict about it. And I don't mean in like a toxic way. I just literally mean like a disagreement that like people just see things so differently that you have to kind of work through that. Whereas if your charts are very similar, you're likely to see things very similarly. And so she just kind of like it's like very synergistic in the way that they work stuff out or that they kind of negotiate what's going on. And it's just because they see things the exact same way. And so I don't know, I like being with people that are very different from me. I definitely like that might be the Libra of it all. Like I like being balanced. Like I like somebody who balances me out. And so then I obviously always go to earth signs because what does an air sign need? Either a fire sign or an earth sign. Or sorry, yeah, an air sign needs a fire sign or an earth sign because earth sign will bring us, a little tether, keep us grounded, or a fire sign will make us come alive. So
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah, I definitely needed a fire sign. I
I was
will
gonna say,
say,
I'm pretty sure your partner's an Aries, right?
yes,
Yeah.
my spouse who I met in my dreams and
Yes. That's a
married
story.
like 2 weeks after meeting,
Yeah.
um, is an Aries.
Yeah. That's very, very, very like Libra Aries behavior. I just want to put that on the table.
Oh, 100%.
That's extremely like margin. Like we're just taking action right now.
Mhm.
So I love that. Yeah. So I definitely think that that kind of is very like we feel very alive in relationships with people who have more um hard aspects to us, more confrontational aspects. It's not necessarily confrontation in a bad way either. It's literally just that they see things so differently to us. And so it kind of brings that out in us, which I think is fascinating. So
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Love it. So I'm so curious to everybody who is listening to this,
Yeah.
maybe has dated someone with at least like the same one of the big threes.
Hmm.
Or
Something you
like,
know. Like
yeah.
yeah.
I wonder, I'm curious, what did they teach you about yourself?
Mm,
I think that's what comes to mind for me
yeah.
is that is an important lesson when you are in this kind of relationship with someone with a similar sign, what are they teaching you about yourself?
Yeah. Yeah.
What are
And
you,
did you like it?
Mhm. Or did you hate it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh,
cool. Thank you
perfect.
for this
Yeah.
beautiful, in your
Thanks.
words, juicy
Yes.
stuff.
Thanks to my client.
Yeah, thank you, client.
All right, next question. You want to read it out, Stevie?
Yes. Okay. So I'm clumping
Yeah.
these two. I don't like the way that clumping sounds as a word.
It's a two-parter question. We can leave it
I
at that.
just realized that. Yeah. Okay. Clumping makes me think of clumping litter,
I was
which,
gonna say, now you're giving yourself the ick.
okay. Two different folks sent in very similar questions. So I'm going to read them both and then we're just kind of going to address them as one. The first one is, how do we welcome new seasons of change like life, but also the transition from summer to fall, fall to winter, and how that affects our mind and bodies? And then the second question is, my question is, what is the best way to spend fall when you have a big old yearning for things like community, creativity, and service? So, very much focused on transitions of seasons and changes. And yeah, Shroot, I
Yeah.
wonder if you have any thoughts about this first.
Yeah, so definitely like what I had said earlier about cardinal signs, like this being a cardinal season, it is the transition. It is the like kickstart of like it's officially happening. It's no longer an ending of summer, like it's like all in on the transition. And so the biggest thing that I would definitely advise is like it's kind of natural that season change triggers a lot of immune responses within us. It is something that is a little bit of a toll on our bodies to navigate the change. And obviously, living in a pandemic that is unmitigated, and COVID variants are running rampant, and everybody's who's gotten COVID, your immune system has been compromised from COVID. It weakens our immune system. It causes problems for us in terms of our immunity. It makes us more likely to fall sick from other things. So a season change is really important to take care of your body and make sure that your body is a priority. I know that October tends to be very busy and very social. And so, with that being said, it's like, how can you be busy and social while also making sure that you're taking care of your body? So, making sure that you're getting enough sleep, making sure that you are, giving yourself opportunities to just like get everything out of your brain, and brain dump is really good. Venting to people is really good. Like just kind of working on like shedding because you need to make space for all of the newness and all of the transition. And you can't do that if you are kind of so full of everything that came before. So I really encourage, especially with the eclipse tomorrow. I really encourage just trying to clear as much space as you can and you know, give as much like carve out as much space for your body and mind to hold that transition peacefully. And in terms of like community, creativity, and service, this is a great season to feel that way. I think, one of the biggest things that is like helpful, and this sounds like easier said than done and maybe a little bit corny to some people, but I think it's a really good season to check in on your loved ones and to say, hey, like, you know, I love being in relationship with you, some version of that, in your own language, your own rhetoric. But like, just being like, hey, is there anything that like I can do to be a better friend, a better partner, a better, relative? Like, and kind of hearing feedback and really striving to implement those changes that you hear into your way of life. Like you could even do it in the workplace, for example. Is there anything I can do to make your job easier? You can say that to the people around you. Like it's just kind of a good season to take in feedback specifically. And so rather than, sitting around and waiting for the feedback to reach us, I think it's most helpful to um, ask for it and invite that space in actively because as you're like transitioning, it's a great opportunity to um, be intentional about that transition and invite in new ways of relating to the people in your life already. So that's what I'll say for now. What about you, Stevie?
That's so beautiful.
Yay.
Okay, the first thing, well, when you were, oh my gosh, I don't even know how to like put words to this. Um, oh yeah, when you were talking about like checking in on your loved ones and stuff, um, I'm a therapist, I'm a mental health professional. So when it comes to these colder seasons or towards the end of the year, um, I'm thinking about what it means to be in community because these are such community heavy holidays that are coming up. Um, and it can activate a lot of isolation or
Mm-hmm.
trauma or re-traumatizing, events. Because yeah, the holidays, the end of the season, it can just bring up a lot of energy and also maybe even feelings of loneliness, isolation, depression,
Mm-hmm.
with seasonal affective disorder. So I'm thinking about it from that perspective too. Like, one, of course, checking in on other people, letting them know that like you love them and doing everything that True recommended, and also checking in on yourself
Mm-hmm.
and, like what your mental health looks like, what your mental health needs, like what you need in order to get through these seasons. Um, that is just one of the things that came to mind for me. Um, I also think about, you know, the different seasons have different associations in terms of themes like spring, renewal, rebirth, growth, transformation. Summer is like vitality, joy, like it's sunny, you want to be outside, or, some people do.
Mm-hmm.
Not me, but and then there's fall, and I feel like from summer to fall becomes such a kind of stark transition between like compared to all the other like season transitions. So
Mm.
fall is when you kind of start like slowing down a little bit. You start letting go of whatever the summer was and you're transitioning into, like it's getting a little colder. You might really enjoy spooky season or all of these things. It's also like a time of harvest. So, like, what were you working on over the past year that is kind of coming to fruition in this time? Things are changing, your body's changing too, like, obviously, with like the change in weather, depending on where you live. Sometimes in California, it doesn't really change that much. Um, yeah, and then winter is like really resting, hibernation, contemplation, like kind of bringing that into yourself. So in terms of greeting these transitions, I think part of it is also reflecting on what these seasons mean to you and how you usually show up during these changes. Like for me, we've talked about before, like in the summer, I want to be inside. I don't really want to be like out and about in the summer. For me, summer is like a time of grief, but I really come alive in the fall because it's a little colder. It's like my birthday season. And, I have a much different relationship with fall than I do the other seasons. So, like, thinking about, like, okay, what do these seasons mean to me personally? And how do I typically move with those transitions? Like, am I resisting them? Am I just
Mm.
with them? Um, Taking some time to reflect on, like, okay, what did this previous season bring for me? What was it like for me? What did I change? What surprised me? And like, what am I intending to release and just like leave there? And what do I want to call in? What do I want to, do differently? Or what do I want to bring in with me in this next season? I hope this is all making sense.
Yeah.
Um, but bringing some mindfulness and intention, kind of the same ways that you would for like moon manifestations
Mm.
and those types of things, like those phases are always ebbing and flowing, and so are the seasons, just in different ways. So grounding into the next season with intention, but also, reflection. I hope, yeah, I said a lot of words, and I hope that makes sense. And I hope to some degree that answered your question.
Yeah. No, I think that was really helpful. I'm like, oh, I gotta do that. I gotta be more intentional about my I think I'm very intentional about like my birth year, especially because, as we've said, October is our birth year month. So I tend to be very like transitional in terms of thinking about the year, and how my year is transitioning, but I don't really think about it in terms of the seasons. So I'm like, ooh, that's a new exercise I can try. I love that. I wanted to say one last thing regarding yearning for things like community, creativity, and service. Is that this is a really good season to be like, what do you want? Like, so in regards to how you show up in community, how you express your creativity, and how you be in service, like, what do you want from those things? So, I think yearning, there's a lot of Scorpio activation happening this month. So there is a certain level of underbelly of the Libra season of, yeah, connectivity and, oh yeah, like transition and, all these kind of new opportunities to reap what you sow, like all that kind of really cool stuff. Like there is an underbelly of like what is missing from that equation. What don't you have? What is not ready to be harvested? Like what is not there? Or there can be a certain level of rumination on dynamics that are just not working anymore, or kind of clinging to our comfort zone as opposed to individuating ourselves and being like, this is what I want, and I'm going to go after it. And so I would really encourage you to lean more toward allowing your yearning to propel you into action. So, really identifying what do you want in those sectors of your life, and um, what are you willing to try in terms of going outside of your comfort zone to get those things. So that's what I would encourage you to ask yourself this month.
I love that.
Yeah. Okay. Do we want to do the next question?
Yes. Okay. Okay. The next question is do you have any advice on how to build a relationship with tarot and astrology in a self-reflective way? Ooh.
Ooh. Our bread and butter. Do
I
you want
know.
to take that first, and talk about tarot, or do you want me to go first?
I can try. I can
Okay,
try to answer this question.
you got it.
um, let's see. Wow, I really don't know. Or I know sometimes, or some part of me knows, but like off the top of my head, I think it's partially about the kinds of questions you ask or hold when you are shuffling the deck, when you're like getting ready to pull a tarot card. Like, I think people sometimes when they connect with a tarot deck or pull cards for them, they just want to know that they're going to be okay. And sometimes that things are going to work in their favor or, XYZ. So they'll ask, like, should I do this? Is this going to work out? It's kind of like
Yeah.
yes or no questions, which I totally understand as somebody who has OCD. I want to know. I want to know that things are going to be okay. I want to know the answers as much as I can. Um, but I found that for me, it's a little more helpful of sure asking a question, but really taking in the message of the cards in a way that makes me think about like, okay, what is this experience going to be like for me? Or like, let's say I'm not asking, should I move to San Francisco? Like I'll ask the question, what is going to be my experience
Mm,
if I move to San Francisco? Is it, am I going to have community? Like just kind of taking in what the card is saying in that way. Um, or like, what am I going to learn about myself? Or asking questions of like, what am, what is the lesson that I'm learning here? Or what is something that I should be considering, but I haven't yet? Framing them in those ways in terms of, you're going to do whatever you're going to do. And you're not going to rely on the cards to make those decisions for you, but using that as a way to kind of like ground into, yeah, just your experience and what you're supposed to learn or what you are learning or some things that you need to consider. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I love that. That's a
Yeah,
really powerful reframe, I think.
I'll leave that there for now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sure, what do you think?
Yeah. I just want to name something on tarot really quick because I feel like I struggled with this a lot. I'm definitely not a tarot expert. I really only read for myself. I don't feel comfortable reading for other people. And I spent a lot of time terrified of tarot. I think we talked about this in the last episode, but I was really terrified of tarot for a while because was it the last episode? No, I think it was a couple ones before, but I think that episode is called Predictive Astrology Tanked My Mental Health. That's the episode where we talk about our approaches to reflective uh, astrology and tarot. But in the face of like fearing my, like, how do I say it? Like fearing that I would get the interpretation wrong of the tarot cards that I was reading, and I would somehow make a situation that I was already scared of worse. So I wouldn't trust my judgment on interpretation for a long time. And I think one question that I've really enjoyed asking lately that's given me a lot of comfort and a lot of ease in my body is what do I need to hear to feel anchored right now? Or what do I need to hear to feel connected to myself right now? So I feel like those questions have kind of created an environment where the tarot gives me like exactly what I need to hear in that moment. And I've noticed that I can feel somatically in my body that I shift into, out of that mind state of ruminating and panicking and being anxiety. And then I shift into a state of like calmness and presence of like, oh yeah, this is the truth. Like I don't have to fear that I'm missing something because it is clearly laid out in front of me, like what I'm dealing with and like what I can hold on to through that uncertainty. And so I've been really enjoying that. I've noticed like a very like strong physiological shift in my body by asking those questions. So I just wanted to put those out there. But in terms of astrology, so I definitely want to underscore like we did have an episode dedicated to our approaches to tarot and astrology in a self-reflective way. So you can go ahead and check that out. It's called Predictive Astrology Tanked My Mental Health. Um, but to follow up on that kind of stuff that we had already talked about, I really like an activity where, you can take the stuff that you're seeing online, the horoscopes that are written out, or, the how your sign, your sign's horoscope for the full moon or anything like that, anything that you're reading, and you can put a bookmark on it, and then you can say, okay, um I'm going to come back in like 3 weeks, 2 weeks, and then you go back and you see, okay, is that horoscope like is that really what happened? Like do you feel like the themes that they mentioned, do you feel like you thought about those themes, like kind of like taking the astrology that is predictive and using it in a reflective context. So that way it's like you're still consuming the content, but you're not spending your present moment being like, is this going to happen? Let me look for all the ways that this comes true. Like, let me kind of like only focus on this. Instead, you're just living your life and you're using the astrology that's out there, the interpretations that are out there to make sense of your life from a past standpoint, where it's like, okay, it's fully played out. All of the scenarios that could have happened, they've happened. Um, do you feel like that horoscope resonates? And I think that can also sharpen your discernment in terms of the content that you do take in, because instead of kind of just like taking in everything that you can, you'll start to drill down into what are the practitioners whose horoscopes that you really like. What are the ones that really do resonate when you're looking at it from a past standpoint of it already happening. And I really like looking at things from a past standpoint because um it's already happened. There is no like wondering and ruminating and being like, I wonder what will happen. Like there's none of that kind of like that's almost like a very air energy of like potential and possibility, and that's wonderful. Like we're team dreaming over here, and we definitely leverage the power of imagination and the power of dreaming. But it can be a little bit like Stevie said, like, you know, less grounded in action because you're so focused on the dreaming. And like it's kind of a more productive use of your time to focus on acting, and then to focus on reflecting on your actions and focus on reflecting on the way that your actions shaped outcomes. Because I think it's really important to remember that, like, ultimately the universe unfolds around your decision making. So you're not really going to like have anything happen if you don't make it happen, you know? So go out there and make it happen. And then you can use astrology as a tool to think back and be like, okay, how did that go? Do I like that? Do I not like that? Um, and just to plug, this practice of tarot and astrology of, Stevie really tailoring those questions to be really getting to the heart of how you feel and holding you in that uncertainty. And then me, saying, hey, like this thing already happened to you. Let's reflect on it and let's tease out some context and use your chart and the transits that are happening to you to really contextualize that. That is what we do in our readings. So if you're ever kind of like, I don't really know where to start, or what you're finding out there isn't really helping you clarify what this, reflective practice could look like for you, we encourage you to book a reading with either one of us or both of us. We have a joint offering together called Dance with Datura. And so you can find all that information in the link in our show notes. But yeah, we really encourage the self-reflective way.
Wow.
Yeah,
I love it. I love it. I love it.
me too.
Um, I do have additional thoughts
Hmm.
if you are looking for, I guess, questions to ask while you are working with your tarot deck. Um, some examples of self-reflective questions could be, what are current challenges that are affecting my emotional well-being? What strengths can I draw on to address my current situation? What aspects of my life are in need of change or transformation? How can I align more closely with my truest self or my highest good? And what is the most important lesson I need to learn at this time? So, if you wanted specific examples, those could be potential options. I've also found, a bunch of people on Instagram and TikTok, they will post pictures or examples of different tarot spreads that you can use, that also come with prompts, like question prompts thingies. And perhaps you might find something that calls out to you in your search there.
I love those. Those are so thought-provoking.
I know, I love them so much. They have something for everything and for
Hmm.
everyone. I appreciate. But woohoo.
Yeah,
Thank you
I
for
love
that
the
question.
community. Yeah, it's like really fun to talk about, really fun to think about. So
Mhm.
thanks for reading in.
Woohoo.
So those are our questions for this episode. And since it's eclipse season, we did not want to leave you hanging in regards to a little bit of astrology tarot guidance to navigate the intensity that I'm sure you're feeling with the eclipse coming up tomorrow. So we kind of wanted to get into some things you can hold on to this month. Do you want to go first, Sadie, or do you want me to go first?
I can go first.
All
Okay,
right.
I pulled one tarot card, and this is from the Physique and Fantasy Tarot deck. It was created by Oscar Zamora Graves, and of course, we are going to link it in the show notes. It's so cool and just like really reminds me of it. It's really just giving fantasy, queer
Mm.
fantasy, and I love it so much. Um, the card for this little season is the Nine of Wands. Some key themes or words are resilience, courage, a test of faith, and boundaries. So I get the sense that, I don't know, whoever's listening, wherever you are right now, it wasn't an easy journey to get to this point. Kind of like a recurring theme of you're taking two steps forward, you're taking one step back. Shout out to Olivia Rodrigo for that one song, which I sing a lot in the car. Um, I feel like it's honestly just like a test. Like the universe, your guides, whoever, like they're testing you. They want to see if you're going to integrate what you've learned, um, and whether or not you're going to make the same choices or different choices, especially when it is a time of discomfort or adversity, challenges, roadblocks, all of that stuff. When we are met with barriers like this, it can set us back in a way that we just want to give up or want to go back to the things that bring us comfort, even if we are trying to be in a process of breaking away from them. So if you are, I don't know, I feel like I'm talking to the same person every time. If you're in a breakup, if you're breaking up with someone and you are having a hard time like really committing to it, and the fear of the unknown of like, what is community going to look like? What is my life going to look like? What is my mental health going to look like? This fear because you have been in this relationship that has been safe and comfortable and loving to some degree, in addition to like complicated and stressful and all of those things. Like once you are really at the threshold of committing to a change, that can be really scary and that can kind of bring you back into the relationship. It's a safety net, a security blanket. Um, when the universe is really kind of trying to usher you through that threshold. But you have to make the decisions. You have to make the change. Kind of what Shroot was saying, like the universe and life is just going to build around the decisions that you make. Um, and this is an example of how you're being prompted to do so. So, what changes are happening for you right now? Or what changes are you resisting or not fully committing to? Um, I think it's so important to kind of stay grounded in yourself and in the things that feel secure and safe in the midst of all of these changes. So keep trying, like take baby steps. Even if it isn't right the first time, keep moving forward as much as you can and trust that things are going to work out and things are happening for you and not to you. Maybe that's like an affirmation that you can kind of ground into during this time, or even a question, a self-reflective question. Again, what is this teaching me? How is this working in my favor? How is this working for my highest good? Um, yeah. And also check in, like who's supporting you? Who is trying to hold you back? There are people who want you to grow and change and transform and evolve. And there are people who don't want that for you, whether or not it's intentional, whether or not it's malicious. Like they might just be reacting and moving from a place of their own fears or insecurities or shadows or whatever. Um, look to your cheerleaders. Look to me and Shroot. We're your
Yeah.
cheerleaders. If you feel like no one's in your corner, we're in your corner. Um, yeah. And also emphasis on checking your boundaries. If you're saying no to someone and they're trying to change your mind, that's not fair. Like people need to honor your boundaries. Um, practice self-care. Setting boundaries is a practice of self-care. And it's a way for you to protect your energy and to nourish yourself. And yeah, lots going on here. It just feels like I get this image of like a little kid jumping into a pile of leaves during fall and just kind of like throwing them in the air, and everything is just kind of falling back to the ground. I don't know why, because that is not what autumn looks like for me. Palm Beach,
I
California,
was about to say SoCal is not giving that.
but the vibe is there. Yeah. Okay, that's me.
Oh, I love that. That's like you have a way of making tough stuff sound very magical. So I'm like, I was a little bit dreading that month, and now I'm like, oh, okay, okay, we can handle it. We got this. Um, so from an astrological standpoint, I want to talk a little bit about Libra energy first, to kind of understand what we're grappling with this month, and understanding the idea that Libra energy is all about displacing the self in order to make room for relational data from external sources. So, as an air sign, Libra energy is all about data. Air signs love data. It's just they use data differently and they care about different kinds of data. So, Gemini energy cares more about material data, just raw data of looking out into the world and making connections between the things that they see and experience happening. Aquarius energy cares about gathering data to fuel a cause or to fuel a purpose or to fuel a vision that they see. And so they gather data that supports it. They gather data that could weaken their, hypothesis or weaken their goals. And so the data is very much channeled through the lens of being put to use. And so Libra energy is specifically about relational data. And that's, not just relational data in terms of other people, but that's relational data in terms of, our relationship to our money, our relationship to our things, our relationship to our home, our relationship to ourselves, our relationship to just about anything and everything, but specifically from a relational perspective of how do we fit in relation to other things and how do other things fit in relationship to us. And so that is, I think, a little bit murkier than the other two air signs because Geminis are like, listen, I'm taking it in and I'm leaving it there. Like Geminis can easily move from thing to thing because they're always open to taking in new information. And Aquarius is like, I'm on a mission. So yeah, the data's data, but I care about my mission. I'm invested in that. So there's a level of movement with Gemini and focus with Aquarius that is both missing in Libra energy. And so it can be hard to kind of take focus and sustained action when you are a Libra, or you have Libra placements or Libra seasons activated, because you can kind of get lost. You can lose yourself in taking in all of that data. And so, we have the North and South node in Aries, North node in Aries, South node in Libra. So the pattern of losing yourself in the data you're taking in or losing yourself in seeking out data from your relational sources is something that will come up heavily, heavily this month. And so the North Node in Aries is really encouraging us to, I keep saying, right, this episode, individuate, find yourself in all of that data. And the advice that I like to give Libras about how to find yourself in all of that data, if you're struggling with that, is really, a process of elimination. Really be clear on what you are not. Because only by really ruling out everything that you're not do you then have the data remaining to tell you, okay, well, what are you? And then you can learn to be like, okay, this thing that I'm evaluating, do I really resonate with that? Is that me? Um, After all the no's, after so many no's, the yeses become much more clear and become much louder. And then you can add that to the stack of things that you know about yourself. And then another tactic that I really like is soliciting the opinions of people I love and trust. What do they think about me? What are the qualities they admire about me or appreciate about me? What do the things that I bring to our relationship are they happy about? So I like to take screenshots when people say these things to me because, there was a good chunk of my life, especially at the beginning of my career, especially before I became an astrologer, where I was like, I don't know who I am. I don't know what's going on. And I have a album of screenshots. I'm almost at like 100 screenshots now of feedback from people that I care about, and telling me about me so that when I have those moments where I feel like I'm drowning in all the data I'm taking in and I can't find myself in there, I go and look back through that album and I'm kind of anchored into the picture that is painted of me by all of these different people. So that's like very like focused data about myself, you know what I mean? And so those are two strategies that I like to employ. And so I really encourage, take them if you need them. And this is a good month to really put those strategies into action. So the reason all of this is so activated is because the solar eclipse in Libra is on October 2nd, and it's asking us to examine the underlying motivations behind the way we relate to others. And ultimately, a good question to ask yourself is, what wounds are you trying to find ease for through your relationships, whether that's platonic, romantic, familial? What stories do you tell yourself about what is possible for you in your relationships? Um, these are kind of questions that will be kind of coming to the forefront. And it's also possible that either we're hyperfixated on these questions or we're trying to avoid these questions because they're kind of intense. And they kind of ask us to really examine ourselves in what can feel like a very critical light. And so I would really encourage you to, one, you know, approach these questions from a place of compassion. So really like, when you're recognizing, oh, like I have this wound that I inherited from my family, it's a dynamic that I experienced in childhood, and I'm playing it out in my partnerships. And, you know, I'm like seeking out the wound healing that I didn't get in my childhood in these relationships, but I'm just perpetuating a dynamic that is not like, you know, soothing to me. And like when you realize that about yourself, you say, hey, I'm doing the best I can, you know? I'm doing the best I can with what I got. And is there a way that I can pivot when it comes to doing the best I can? So kind of try to take a little bit more of a gentle approach. A great question to ask yourself when you're self-reflecting is, when you're having reactions to the things that are coming up, would a friend say that to you? Would a kind and considerate, you know, compassionate partner say that to you? Like, is that how you want to be treated in your relationships? And if the answer is no, is that fair to yourself to be treating yourself like that? So these are the kind of things that you want to be evaluating. And I really encourage people to like fight the impulse to just stay in your feelings, stay in your thoughts, stay weighing out everything and to kind of take action. So thankfully there are going to be transits coming up after Libra season that really encourage taking action. But I think the ability to get up to date data to work with is really only going to happen when you take action because how you act in theory or how you think you act in theory, there is a discrepancy. And that's classic Venusian, that there is a discrepancy between the way that you think you handle situations, the way that you think things are going to be, that expectations versus reality. The reality of how things are actually and how you actually show up is only going to be evident to you when you take action. So, I encourage you to take action. I encourage you to stir the pot, move things along, really use action as a way to get clarity. But then also, when you take action, if you take action, pay attention. Pay attention to how you act, how you're showing up, how people are responding to you. And those are all just really good things to think about this month. So yeah.
I'm thinking.
Yeah. We're gonna be thinking real hard. So
Oh, my smooth brain.
yes, you gotta push it to the limit. I'm having a really interesting time with that. Speaking of smooth brains,
Mhm,
because
mhm.
in my kind of like practice with my relationship to my own body, I'm kind of coming to a place of reconnection with my body after surgery, after releasing so much of the constant pain that I was in for so long that has like really screwed up my neuromuscular connection. And I am reconnecting to a lot of muscles that I didn't like I lost connection to. And just yesterday I went and got a massage and we realized that I can't really activate isolated my quads. And that was really, really weird for me because I was a dancer for most of my life, except the last 10 years, but at least 2/3 of my life I've was a very like heavy dancer. I was dancing all the time in very organized settings. And, you know, as a dancer, your quads are the bare minimum of muscles that you have in your legs. And the fact that I couldn't connect with them was like, I had like a very existential moment. I was like, who am I? Like, this is something that I associated as something static with my identity. That, of course, I have a connection to my quads. I'm a dancer. And it's like, yeah, you've been bedridden for 10 days or 10 years. Like, are you sure you have connection to your quads? And so it was just a reminder to me that we are kind of constantly creating ourselves and we are constantly creating new versions of ourselves. And so it's my task this Libra season to really connect with the version of me that exists today, who struggles to connect with a lot of my muscles because I lost connection because of all the pain I was in. And it's like the actual act of reconnecting your brain and your muscles it's difficult. It's like really exerting on the brain. It was like I went for a massage and I had like an intense, I felt like I was like taking a test at school. Like it was like such a strain on my brain. Like, um But that's kind of the change that I'm stepping into. And so rip to our smooth brains. It's not the month for that. So
Yeah, dang it.
yeah.
No, especially because we are turning 30 this
Yes,
month.
exactly. We have to be really intentional about what brain connections we want to make because it is we have the most agency to do stuff about it, to make those choices, and we have the least neuroplasticity that we've ever had, and we will only it's not that we lose neuroplasticity entirely, but it's that it becomes harder to make those active changes. So this is a great time for us to choose what do we want to cement in? What do we want to kind of make normal for us? If you're approaching 30, if you're newly leaving 30, those are the kind of things to think about.
Oi, oi, oi. Well,
So,
but
yeah. Any final
thank
thoughts,
you.
Stevie, before we wrap up?
No, these were great questions. I always, always, always love knowing what's going on in your
Yes.
life. What
Oh,
questions are keeping you up at night?
yeah. Same. And we would love to hear from you, listener. What's going
Mhm.
on with you? You're hearing from us. We would love to hear from you as well. So feel free to
Please.
reach out to us, email, via Instagram. All of the links are in our show notes. So
Beautiful.
let us know. And I really encourage you. This is actually a great season to book a joint reading with us because we will get your head on straight. We will help you stop feeling so turned around and help you be in this moment and hold your, you know, deep fears, hold your insecurities, hold your shadow self, and empower you with really practical and accessible strategies to move forward. So we really encourage you to book a joint reading with us. It's called Dance with Datura. You'll find that link in our show notes. And you can also find me on social media, pretty much every single social media platform at Shrew Trees. That's SHRUTREES. And I'm open for readings as well if you just want an astrology reading. It's a great season for that. And what about you, Stevie? Where can they find you?
Yeah. You can find me on Instagram and TikTok at cosmic.return. Um, yeah, you can also book a tarot reading with me, a virtual Reiki session with me. Um, yeah, I'd love that. I'd love to hang out. I'd love to
Yeah.
see support you, hold space for you. And hooray.
Yeah, and if you're local to Long Beach area, you should keep an eye out because Stevie is doing events now. So, I encourage you to follow Stevie, and if you want to catch Stevie in person, highly, highly encourage checking out their events that they're starting to get into. So, if you're interested in grief work, Stevie's got events for that.
I do, y'all.
Yeah.
Reiki, sound bath, all of the above. Processing. I got you. We got each other.
Yeah. But yeah. Also, everybody congratulate Stevie for moving into events. It's a big step. We're really proud of her.
Thanks. Thanks. It took a very long time,
Yeah.
uh, wanting to do it for almost
It's been
2 years
years. Yeah.
and just talking myself out of it every day for almost 2 years. So remember, God, true. What episode was it when you said
Yes.
if you really want to see change, give it 2 years?
Yeah. Yeah. It was two episodes ago. Um, yeah, we talked
Mhm.
about eclipse. We prepped you for these eclipses and yeah, the big shifts, the scariest shifts. Yeah, you got to give yourself 2 years because you'll get there. You just keep pushing, even through the doubt and talking yourself down. It's like just you're still on that 2 year timeline. And so I encourage if Stevie can do it, you can do it too, because it was a rough, rough uphill climb for Stevie.
Mhm.
So
It's the climb by Miley
yes.
Cyrus.
But you're gonna make it move. You're gonna make that mountain move. You got it. So
Yeah.
you can just take 2 years to do it. No worries. So
Yeah.
proud of you.
Mhm. Thank you, pal. Proud
Yeah.
of you too.
Thanks. So yeah, we are all in this together if we want to keep it, we made it through most
Thank
of this episode with no, actually, no, we had some song references. Never mind. Okay. Yeah, we got to make a playlist of all these song references. They're so like classically millennial. Um, but yeah, we will we're all in this together. We'll see you next Tuesday.
See you next Tuesday, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.